Just give me a second to get my cables connected. I didn't think I'd be the first person today to present like this, but I am. I hope it works.
Very impressive.
What number are you?
I'm input 1.
Can I do it now?
Yep. And thank you, noble survivors who are still here. I was a bit worried I was going to be onto an empty room. Good, we're working. I'm going to start with my view on apps, and again, to be the umpteenth person to come back to Evan Schnittman's point earlier. My view of apps is quite simple. Apps are a phenomenon of our age, and they're here to stay and growing. I can't see why there won't be book apps as well. There will be. So for me, the only question is, do publishers want to have a role in that book app world? Because they can be made by anyone and are being made by anyone, as some of the apps I'll show today will demonstrate. So I think that's actually pretty simple. And for that's I'm not streaming to it yet. But I also think that let me dive straight in. I was very glad to Lisa G for mentioning the solar system, which I'm going to mention, and I was even more grateful to David Shelley for mentioning the wasteland, because I'm going to give you a very quick glimpse of our next project with TouchPress, as well as putting in the middle a good foray into the apps that I think have caught my eye most in the last fortnight. So starting with the solar system. Is it going to the big screen? I always knew this was going to be a risk, this mechanical presentation. I'm confident it will work. I'm playing you a bit of Bjork in the background, Bjork did the soundtrack for this application.
Good.
In essence, though, what I'm here to do is not just to show you pretty objects on the screen. I think what's more interesting is the business models behind it. And the thing that interests me about the solar system is we have a balance of business models. This was conceived as an app. We commissioned the author Marcus Chan to write the app, and what's following from that is a print book. Sorry.
Can you turn the music down, Henry?
Any job? I knew it would work. Thank you for your patience. Ça va? It's working. Okay, let me dive straight in. Many of you see this, but I'm sure not all of you will. What are the characteristics? I think the characteristics initially are the visual splendor of it, absolutely without question. But what interests me is the relationship of this text to the visuals. When users start playing around with this, they look at the visuals. What they realize in time is that there is a book here. And I would also say that TouchPress, our co-publishers on this project, do not call this an app. This is a book. This is a book that simply happens to make use of the best current available platform and technology. That's the way we think about this. Everything I'm showing you here is on the iPad, which wisely or not was for presentational pragmatism. I don't want to try this mistake on numerous devices. But that's the way to look at it. Think of what it is delivering. And at the moment, here is where we have the greatest software programming freedom to create what I think is a very exciting project. Let me touch this, and it will fly us to Mars in a three-dimensional orrery. I can speed up or slow down the spin of the planets. I can turn off the orbital paths. I can make the Earth the center of the universe at a tap. Zoom in, move round, move back to, move straight to Earth. I'll come back to that. Turn Earth's atmosphere on or off. Use this slider to take me to Mars. Fly through the Val Marineris and Mars, double tap to make that full screen. I'll turn the sound, I'll risk turning the sound back up now. I can fly us to Saturn. This is the image that Apple used in the official video for the iPad 2 to demonstrate this video out technique, which is working in the end. And you can see that the potential for use of this in education, in the classroom, is, I think, very strong. Let me take you quickly back to the orrery. But as I was saying, the key thing here for me about this is the variety of business models. Its success as an app is very significant, and I think the key thing is it broke out, like all successful apps, it broke out of its category. This app for no mean amount of time was the third highest grossing app in America. It was the iPad app of the week in America. It was the second highest grossing app in the UK. This is ahead of Angry Birds. It doesn't stay there, but it had reached that height. And so that's what I mean by the success of breaking out of the books category. We've just had a Japanese translation and we'll be releasing that. We've got a German translation underway. And as I said, we have a coffee table book in production coming second after the digital product. So I think those are the key components of this project. But it has an author in its heart. My background is as a book editor, and in some ways I was editor on this project, but it also changes to the extent it's more like being a producer. I will move on very quickly. I could show you that all day. It struck me that of some of the things that had caught my eye in the recent week, actually were the three categories that Amazon mentioned earlier as lacking on that platform: graphic novels, kids, and cookery. And I think there's maybe no coincidence that there are strong versions of this on this platform here because of the mesh of device software and content. Off schedule, I might be insane. I'm showing you a Martha Stewart cookie app. All I want to show you there, look at this on an interface for a cookbook. That's the index. That's not thinking, that's not print-led way of designing. And it's also very, very simple. Kids-wise, the two I wanted to mention neither come from traditional publishers. The Three Little Pigs app comes from the startup Nosy Crow and has done extremely well. I think the significant things there are I'll fix that orientation problem in a sec. The things that...
Three Little Pigs.
I think the one thing here is
there were three
the publishing pedigree of this project. It's exceptional in terms of the audio quality, the design, and it's no accident that it, like the next one, uses out-of-copyright concept retold here because they were unencumbered, they were free to experiment, just like we were with the solar system. Here's a silly bit of functionality. It also has a certain amount of 3D.
Nice to meet you.
But the other business model point of view is this app has been sold as a co-edition, probably the first app co-edition deal to a German publisher and Gallimard in France. So there's a brilliant use of a traditional publishing business model with a new project. Whizzing on, I'm going to show you this one quickly. This is Nursery Rhymes with Storytime. It's not produced by a traditional publisher. The sound is designed by the same people as did the solar system. But it has, again, it uses nursery rhymes, but what it also uses is the thing called Storytime, which sounds very close to an Apple product, and that's no accident. The two things here are very, very simple fairy tales, but probably even more significantly uses the Apple's Game Center app to enable remote storytelling. It's a brilliant piece of functionality and a brilliant piece of thinking that comes from thinking digital first. There's a typical sound effect. A risk of pulling out all kinds of cables. I'll just show that by use of manipulation. But for me, the things there are getting functionality, I would strongly argue, ahead of content, thinking about what makes sense in this app context. Near the end, I'm going to comics. These three apps, Marvel, DC, and comics, if you ever look at the books category of the App Store, 2 out of 3 of them, for as long as I can remember, are always head at the top in top grossing. They're largely free apps, but they sell through in-app purchase. These are the best example I know of the in-app purchase mechanic in action for a book-related issue. And in the comics app, new material comes out every Wednesday. The fan base looks forward to it, looks out for it, and so the continual use of the app is very, very strong. It's that, incidentally, in the comic world, it's only about now that they're getting to simultaneous print and digital release. And for the record, I think that's the way you have to go. Any kind of windowing, a delay of digital seems to me like insanity. I think you have to be in there from the start. Very finally, I just want to show you a sneak glimpse of our next release with Touch Press. I feel justified just about because David mentioned Ezra Pound's editing of Eliot, and because I think this takes this kind of app development into a new area, because we're here concerned with literature. I should say this is an alpha, this is not a final build, so it will have bugs in. But quickly, the poem is at the heart of it. We wouldn't want to mess around with the poem. We're Faber and Faber. But it has more functionality than that. I could turn...
April is the cruelest month.
Here we have Eliot,
Reading
1933.
lilacs out of the dead land, mixing...
Lilacs out
Here
of
we
the
have
dead land,
Alec Guinness.
mixing
Any line
summer surprised
I
us,
tap,
coming
the
over
reading
the
jumps to. It makes this approach,
with
I
a
think,
shower
makes
of
particular
rain.
sense
We stopped in the colonnade
with a poem.
and went on in sunlight into the Hofgarten and drank coffee.
And talked for an hour.
If you recognise Ted Hughes.
Bin gar keine Russin. Stamm aus Litauen.
Bin gar keine Russin.
Very different
Stamm aus
from
Litauen.
Hollywood. It's Viggo Mortensen who
Deutsch.
also read for us.
And when
for
we
this.
were children, staying at the Archduke's, my cousin.
My cousins.
And we made a new film of Fiona Shaw, directed by Deborah
Marie!
Warner.
Marie! Hold on tight! And down we went. In the mountains.
I apologise to Fiona and to Eliot for messing around, but I have to be quick. Again, the coupling works. Any line I tap, the video jumps to that. I will swipe my finger from left to right, and that's a fast-forward mechanic here. Moving backwards is a rewind mechanic. If I rotate the iPads, you have the high-definition video occupying the full screen. And I'll go to another piece of functionality which we're calling perspectives, which through a deal with BBC we have access to, for example, Seamus Heaney talking about the poem.
Always by interpretation.
Jeanette Winterston, my colleague Paul Keegan, our poetry editor, and more.
Uncontained form, which is actually quite popular now. He thought that it was disgusting.
It's the end of the day. I'll stop, and I could talk forever, but I suppose I want to demonstrate that I think there can just be a sense of sheer excitement to what you can do with apps, and I think we should stop there. Thanks.